Hello and welcome to another in the Making People Better podcast from Vita Health Group. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Glenn Tomsett, and the aim of this series, of course, is to raise awareness of what Vita Health Group have to offer. To do that, I'm joined on each episode by various experts in their chosen field. Today's episode is all about mental health awareness, where the focus is very much on anxiety. And to help me tackle this, I'm joined by Ryan Luney? How do we pronounce it? Luney. Okay.
Luney, like Looney Tunes.
Okay, Ryan is a senior psychological wellbeing practitioner on the corporate side at Vita Health Group and joins us from sunny Ireland. Ryan, good to see you. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing good, Glenn. I'm doing good. Thanks for inviting me on. And yes, sunny is definitely the right term to use today.
Good to see you, but let's talk about the mental health awareness. Of course, there's a mental health awareness week, which we all know about, but of course mental health is ongoing, isn't it? It's very much an ongoing issue. What are the signs that someone might actually be suffering from anxiety, which of course is all part of the mental health awareness?
One of the most common symptoms of anxiety as such is a lot of stress and worry. Now, the reason why I suppose we're talking about anxiety is because it's probably if not one of, the most common mental health issues that people are facing. And what a lot of people fail to recognise is that anxiety is very much a natural phenomenon. You know, people will experience anxiety week by week, day by day. People do experience it about everything and anything. But the point of anxiety is that it's trying to protect you. It's your brain trying to protect itself as such. When we were cavemen, you know, anxiety was very helpful for knowing whether to stay away from an animal that might cause us harm. Unfortunately now, we can't tell the difference between a lion and a tiger and maybe an interview or even doing a podcast or a video podcast that may cause us a bit of anxiety and worry. Problem is, the second one doesn't really protect us. It more causes us to avoid things. So what we find a lot of people with anxiety do is they have a lot of avoidance behaviours, and that is kind of the fight or flight response. So it's essentially your body telling you whether I'm going to fight this situation or I'm going to run away from it. Now, how are you going to fight an interview? Am I going to end up punching the camera? Probably not. I'm going to end up running away from it and avoiding it. So that's usually probably one of the most common symptoms we see is some sort of avoidance behaviour of something that triggers them, something that causes a lot of stress, a lot of worry. Some other common symptoms could be particular stress and worry about specific aspects of their life, whether that's to do with their health, whether it's to do with intrusive thoughts about family members or friends getting in accidents or being ill. Lots of different worry and stress about lots of different aspects of your life. But the point of this, which I think I'll probably drill home in a lot of these questions, is that anxiety is subjective. It does not matter what you're worrying about as long as you're worrying about something. So what maybe, it's almost like the one man's trash is another man's treasure. What one man seems as nothing, the other man seems as very anxiety provoking and stressful.
So a lot of things can lead to anxiety, as you've sort of highlighted there, Ryan. You know, jobs, maybe schoolwork. There are so many different factors involved in anxiety. I mean, my own particular experience at the moment is that my wife is suffering a lot of anxiety. She's going through, not really enjoying her work. She won't mind me saying this. She's waking up in the middle of the night feeling anxious. You know, her heart's racing. She can't get back to sleep. I mean, this is quite a common factor, isn't it?
Oh yeah, especially workplace stress at the moment, because unfortunately with the way the world is at the moment, people are pushed to the brink for very minimum reward at the end of the month or at the end of the week, and unfortunately that just leads to burnout. And no matter what job position you're in, I think everyone's starting to face these issues. So it is a very, very common, and it's almost built a kind of community aspect with people, where it's a case of everyone can kind of empathize with everyone else, you know, knowing they're going through what others are going through. But what is very important there, I suppose, is obviously your wife's getting very worried about her job and her workplace. And as you said, people may get worried about job, other people may get worried about their school work and maybe exams coming up and things like that. Very interesting fact is they actually did a study, and they found that the stress hormone, which is called cortisol, it releases when people are feeling anxious, people are feeling stressed. and they found that the amount of cortisol that was released whenever people are maybe in their teenage years and they couldn't find a date to like a disco or something like that, and as an adult, when they couldn't really get a mortgage, or they're going bankrupt, or getting fired or made redundant, the amount of cortisol released was pretty much identical, showing that despite being very drastic different situations, I'd rather not have a date rather than lose a house. But because that's the most important thing to them at that given time, that then causes, of course, a lot of worry and a lot of stress and anxiety, the same amount as what other people may experience at different parts in their life. So there will be many, many times that people will say, and maybe even your wife included, next year, why was I worried about that? That was silly. That was stupid.
You look back and you think, what was that all about?
Exactly. Yeah. But in that moment, in this sort of situation, it is the most anxiety-provoking, worrisome thing that people can experience as such, because it's the most important thing to them right now.
I'm guessing there are mild episodes of anxiety, there are severe episodes of anxiety. In terms of anybody noticing any physical related problems with anxiety, what sort of things should we be looking out for?
Yes, so with the physical signs of anxiety, we're looking more things that, if we were going very, very common characteristic symptoms you maybe see on TV all the time: sweating, shaking. This could induce panic attacks, which are, of course, those sort of quite brief, episodic, overbearing feelings of terror, where you're maybe sweating, shaking, crying, can't control your breathing at all. Unfortunately, you are unable to even think rationally. Your mind's racing 100 miles an hour. So the physical signs of people experiencing a lot of anxiety would be the kind of fight or flight response. You need to maybe go to the bathroom. You maybe need to, you're feeling a bit lightheaded. All your blood and all your energy is going straight to your muscle groups to help you fight or flight the situation. And unfortunately, because there's nothing to fight or flight, you do the third F, which is freeze. So a lot of people are very unable to control their own body that way, and unable to really react the way they know they should react.
Presumably that's a severe case of anxiety, is it?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So anxiety, as much as it is a very natural human emotion, everyone will experience it at some point in their life. If someone says they've never experienced anxiety in their life, they're probably lying. Everyone has experienced it. The problem is it becomes an anxiety disorder when it's overbearing, severe, and it basically intrudes most, if not every, aspect of your life. So when it becomes something severe, it affects your sleep, your appetite day by day, your work, your job, your social life, your relationships, even just private activities. That's when it starts to become general anxiety to more an anxiety disorder.
People say to you, don't they? They say, you're looking anxious today. What's the problem? What's the matter? You might be biting your nails. You might be sort of fiddling with your fingers. That's all a sign of anxiety, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, a lot of people see those as coping strategies. They're obviously going from mild to people picking, as you said, picking their nails, biting fingers, to more severe length, people pulling out their own hair, people, and not even realising they're doing it, just like twiddling their fingers into their hair, pulling it out. All stress-related things, fidgeting. A lot of people, I'm sure you've seen, were taking this sort of, a lot of people were getting the fidget cubes that have like lots of different dials and stuff. They can help distract a lot of people from their fidgeting behaviours, or at least give them a more adaptive way rather than picking and messing up their own skin. I mean, I'm a habit picker as well. If I'm sitting there and I'm working on stuff, I'll just end up picking away at my nails, and I'll not even realise I'm doing it, because it becomes so habitual.
Yeah. And, severe anxiety, just touching on this very quickly, Ryan, it can be debilitating, can't it? It can really interfere with your lifestyle.
Yeah. Many people that are unfortunately subject to very severe forms of anxiety can not even leave the house. And that, luckily, in today's day and age, obviously we can get things like, delivery to the house, whether it's food or any sort of necessities that people need, but it's still very debilitating. You can't see your friends, you can't see your family, you can't go anywhere you're going to go, even if you've maybe been there before, maybe met with a barrage of questions of, well, what if this happens, what if that happens, if I go here and I see this person, or maybe people look at me like I'm stupid, all sorts of things like that. So you get a a constant barrage in your head of all these intrusive worries about what could, may, or hypothetically, could potentially happen in the future.
And what sort of resources, Ryan, can you recommend if anybody is undergoing all this anxiety and this stress at the moment? What sort of things are out there to help us?
Yeah, of course. So the most prominent intervention is cognitive behavioural therapy, also known as CBT, which probably most people have heard of it, maybe don't really know what it is, but I'm sure at some point or another they may have heard of CBT. And the idea behind CBT is basically looking at three main aspects of your life, and that's your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviours. And I like to look at this, if you want to imagine like a triangle. So everyone, I'm sure at some point or another, has done the fire awareness training. You've got heat, oxygen, and fuel keeps a fire going. I like to look at that as an issue in your brain. You've got your thoughts, feelings, and behaviours that keep the fire going in the head. How do you get rid of the fire? You take away one of the elements. Because what people don't take into consideration is that their thoughts, their feelings, and their behaviours are all interlinked. If you have a negative, anxious thought, what if I go here and someone calls me out and calls me stupid? It's obviously going to lead to a feeling of anxiety, maybe a bit of nervousness, maybe a bit of worry and stress. That then leads to a behaviour, and that behaviour then becomes more so avoidance. I'm going to avoid any activity that causes a spike of anxiety. I'm going to avoid anything that makes me feel this way because it's an uncomfortable feeling. People don't like it, so they avoid it. That then further reinforces those thoughts. There's no learning behaviour there. You're just completely negating it and you're not learning from anything because you're avoiding it, reinforcing the thoughts, and the cycle keeps going. So we take it like the fire triangle, the heat, fuel, and oxygen. We take away either the thoughts, the feelings, or the behaviours, the fire goes out. So that's kind of the aim behind CBT as a course. Now, there are a lot of self-help techniques that people can do themselves in their own house that don't require a professional, although I will advise, though, that if, of course, you're experiencing very severe anxiety or any sort of debilitating mental illness, to reach out to any professional, usually starting with your GP. Obviously, we, reach out to a specialised therapist and they can help sort with what you're doing. With regards to anxiety, different forms of anxiety require different interventions, essentially. A lot of people, I'm sure, have heard the term general anxiety or generalised anxiety disorder. This is basically a worry about everything, everything and anything under the sun. Doesn't matter where you're going, doesn't matter what you're doing, it will cause a worry. Social anxiety then, another form, obviously more worry about what people are thinking about you in social situations, maybe more worry about what others are going to say, about if you do something in public, so therefore you may just avoid public spaces or at least crowded spaces altogether. Agoraphobia or agoraphobia, depending on how you want to pronounce it, very similar to social phobia, but it's more avoidance of situations that you can't feel you can easily escape from. So it could be things like supermarkets, or even it could be a wide open field.
I have a fear of supermarkets. Just generally going in shopping. But I digress.
I'll be honest, I'm exactly the same, because especially if you go to Tesco on a Sunday, you can clearly understand why someone might have agoraphobia. Absolutely. Or even social phobia. Or you go to a shop during the Christmas rush. That anxiety is how people will feel on a general quiet day. So you can completely empathise with that.
What top tips can you recommend then to both identify and manage anxiety, Ryan? What suggestions can you come up with?
Yeah, so with regards to identifying, obviously it's a lot easier with a professional. We look at your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviours in what's called a formulation. So essentially what we do is we get all the information we can from yourself. We look at certain triggers, certain symptoms that you may be experiencing, and that kind of gives us a bit of an overview into what type of mental disorder, of course, is affecting yourself, but also then specifically maybe what type of anxiety disorder, whether it's social phobia, a specific phobia, whether it's generalized anxiety disorder, health anxiety, OCD. We get all that information because a lot of the symptoms do overlap in a lot of disorders. A lot of the times, unfortunately, what happens is it's not a clear-cut answer, but the more information we delve from your issue, the more information we can kind of paste together in this kind of network of information. It's almost like if you ever seen those movies where they have all the wire threads and everything on like a chalkboard,
Yeah.
feels like that at times, where you're trying to connect the dots. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? So that's kind of what we would do as professionals. Now, an individual themselves, it's very important to ask yourself, why are you worrying about something? Now, anxiety is usually about worry. Of course, anxiety is more long-standing than worry. Worry is usually very episodic and brief, but it's very important for you to ask yourself, why are you worrying about something? So, I'm worried about leaving the iron on in the house. Okay, but why? Very obvious. The house may burn down. But is that why you're worrying? Or are you worried about what other people could say to you? Are you worried about how that looks from other people? Or are you worried about... Yeah, exactly. So is the worry that you're going to do something bad that's going to affect you, or is the worry that other people are going to look negatively on you? Or is it an entirely separate worry? The type of worry that comes from that can kind of help indicate what anxiety disorder, if any. I mean, I'm not saying that people have to have an anxiety disorder to worry about these things, but obviously if it's debilitating and severe, it seems more likely that it would be. So it is very important for us then to go, okay, well, this seems like you're worrying about this, and this. Why are you worrying about these things? Because I'm worried about what my neighbours might think of me. Okay, that seems more in line with social phobia than just a general worry.
Yeah. If things have got not out of control, but you are worrying about all sorts of unnecessary things. You mentioned about the iron. Maybe, have I locked the back door up before I go and watch the television in the evening?
Yeah.
Silly things, just what I call silly anxiety triggers. Should you see somebody? Should your first port of call be your GP? Then maybe come to somebody like your good self? I mean, what's the process?
So usually what people do, is probably the easiest in today's day and age, is to reach out to your GP. I understand a lot of people maybe have private medical insurance or private healthcare, and it could be reaching out to them. Of course, it's always important to ask yourself, is this something that's just happens once in a blue moon, doesn't really affect me very much, doesn't impact my work, my relationships? Is it even a problem? Then in which case, if you can survive fine with it, and you have been so far, then that's grand. It is natural phenomenon to have anxiety. If it starts to impact and sort of integrate and dig its nails into every aspect of your life, that's when I suppose you should start to consider reaching out for support.
Yeah.
But everyone can always reach out for support anyway, even if it's not as debilitating as maybe others.
And just very quickly, Ryan, is it something that can be cured? If you have got anxiety and it's pretty bad, is it something that maybe can be cured?
Yeah, so with anxiety, as I mentioned before, it is a natural phenomenon, and when anyone comes in treating with anxiety, we make it very, very clear that the point of therapy is not to eradicate the anxiety. It's not to make you a robot and not reactive to anything, because anxiety protects you. When you cross the road, it's anxiety that stops you and look left or right before you cross the road. What's very, very important is that you are very clear on understanding therapy is about coping with the anxiety, giving you skills and techniques and abilities to be able to manage the anxiety appropriately and adaptively, rather than just trying to live with it and obviously experiencing these symptoms day by day. It's very, very important that we understand that there is definitely a fine line, but definitive difference between normal everyday anxiety and debilitating anxiety. So everyone will always experience anxiety the rest of their life, but not that debilitating form. It's coping techniques, and one of the very good ways of coping with anxiety, I find, especially if you're finding yourself having lots of little small worries, is ask yourself, is it hypothetical or is it a practical worry?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is it a worry that is a what if worry? What if that happens? There's no evidence that it's ever going to happen. There's even if it does happen, is it even within your ability to change anything about it? For instance, what if a comet hits the Earth right now? Can I stop that? No, I'm not Superman. So unfortunately, that is just going to happen. So me worrying about it is not going to have an effect on that happening or not. Whereas practical, maybe my car broke down this morning, bit of a practical worry, I can do something about it.
Yeah. We've all been there, haven't we, where we thought and said to ourselves quietly in our own mind, why am I worrying about this?
Yeah.
What is the problem? Just chill out, Glenn. Chill out, Ryan. Why am I doing this? It's a fascinating subject, and we've only just skimmed the surface, Ryan. If anybody wants more details about maybe what Vita can do for them, I'm guessing head over to the website to get more information?
Yes, of course. Head on to the website, which I assume will be linked, I'm sure, somewhere in this, and of course any sort of professional. Now, be very careful when you Google symptoms online, of course. I'm sure that goes without saying.
Yeah.
But make sure if you are Googling symptoms on an accredited website, even the NHS websites or any sort of government website that's linked to national health, is very important, though, that we recognise that these difficulties can be debilitating for people. If it does become severe and debilitating and it isn't sort of something you can just shrug off, don't leave it. Don't just pretend that it's not there. I remember avoidance is a symptom of anxiety, even if that is avoiding acknowledging the anxiety.
I guess also talking to people about it, talking to your family members, talking to friends about how you're feeling is important as well, isn't it?
Of course, being worried about something is a human experience. There will be things that you're worried about and things that other people aren't. I remember when I was a kid, I was worried about getting on any and all roller coasters. That was a big fear of mine. Didn't like it at all. My family thought I was stupid and silly.
I thought I was alone on that one. I thought I was completely alone, but obviously not.
Exactly. So it is. It turns out that it was very common. Now, I managed to get over my fear after a long time, but to a lot of people, what may seem as a very stupid worry is a very crucial maybe part of their everyday thinking. And it's important that if someone does come to you with a worry, not to, and I don't mean you yourself, if someone else, like a family member or friend, comes to you with a worry, it's making sure you don't neglect their worry, making sure you don't just go, oh, but that's stupid, you don't need to worry about that. Listen to them and understand why they're worrying about that thing. Maybe even just ask them the question, well, why are you worrying about that? What is the reason for the behind the worry as such?
Everybody's anxiety, everybody's worry is important to them personally, isn't it? So absolutely, but good to talk about it. Ryan, great to talk to you. Fascinating conversation.
Thank you very much.
Hopefully we can come back and do another more in-depth look at anxiety. I'd really
100%.
welcome that. I'm sure our viewers would as well, right here on the Vita Health podcast series. But Ryan Luney, Senior Psychological Wellbeing Practitioner on the corporate side at Vita Health Group. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Yes, thank you, Glenn. And as you said, we only scratched the surface, but I'm welcome to come back and talk about anything in more depth.
Lovely. Okay, take care.
Thank you. All the best.